Nearly 80% of people admit to procrastinating in some area of their life, and for many of us, it's the very thing holding us back from success. Now, imagine a life where you don't procrastinate anymore. A life where you tackle tasks head-on, stress less, and actually start achieving your goals. What could you accomplish if you stopped procrastinating today? Let's take a moment to understand what procrastination really is. You might think procrastination is about being lazy or not caring enough, but it's much more complex than that. Procrastination is actually a psychological behavior rooted in our brain's wiring. It's the act of delaying or avoiding tasks even when we know they're important and would benefit us in the long run. But why do we procrastinate? The answer lies in a battle happening inside our brains. There's the rational part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for decision-making, planning, and taking action. Then there's the emotional primitive part of our brain, called the limbic system, which seeks immediate comfort and pleasure. Every time we face a challenging task, our emotional brain craves something easier, something more enjoyable, like checking our phones or watching TV. So, instead of focusing on the difficult task at hand, we choose an activity that gives us immediate gratification. Does that sound familiar? You have an important project due in a few days, but somehow your mind convinces you that organizing your closet or binge watching a series is a much better use of your time. That's your emotional brain winning the battle, pulling you into what's often called the instant gratification trap. Procrastination might seem harmless in the moment, but it comes at a serious cost. On a personal level, procrastination is a thief of time. Every minute spent putting off an important task is a minute you'll never get back. How many opportunities have passed you by because you waited too long? Think about the dreams or goals you've postponed. Writing that book, launching that business, applying for a promotion. What could your life look like if you hadn't put those things off? On a professional level, procrastination can be a silent career killer. When you constantly delay tasks, you miss deadlines, underperform, and fail to show your true potential. This not only impacts your reputation, but also holds you back from achieving greater success. Whether that's landing a new job, earning a promotion, or simply excelling at what you do. And let's not forget the emotional toll. When you procrastinate, you feel stressed, anxious, and guilty as the undone tasks pile up. You know what needs to be done, but that growing list of to-dos creates an overwhelming pressure that makes it even harder to start. Picture your life a year from now if you continue to procrastinate. How much will you have missed out on? How different could your life look if you took control today? Understanding the science behind procrastination helps explain why it's such a common issue. Procrastination isn't about being lazy. It's a biological response that's deeply embedded in our brain's wiring. When faced with a difficult or unpleasant task, your brain is trying to protect you from discomfort. The limbic system, which controls our emotional responses, is hardwired to seek pleasure and avoid pain. On the other hand, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that deals with planning and decision-making, knows that completing the task will benefit you in the long run. This tug of war often leads to the victory of the emotional brain, which is why we fall into distractions that give us instant gratification. Every time you choose to procrastinate, your brain rewards you with a hit of dopamine, the feel-good chemical. And so, the cycle repeats itself. Procrastination becomes a habit that feels impossible to break. But here's the good news. Once you understand the science, you can start using it to your advantage. Now, let me introduce you to a simple but incredibly effective technique that will help you break free from the cycle of procrastination. It's called the 2-minute rule. This method is so powerful because it focuses on the hardest part of any task, the beginning. Think about it. Starting something new, especially a task that feels overwhelming or difficult, is always the hardest part. But once you get going, you often find that it's not as bad as you imagined, and you start building momentum. Here's how the 2-minute rule works. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, do it immediately. This could be something as simple as replying to an email, sending a quick text, or washing a few dishes. But the real magic happens when you apply the second part of the rule. For bigger tasks, commit to just 2 minutes of work. That's it. The goal isn't to finish the task, it's simply to start. Let's say you've been avoiding working on a big project. Instead of thinking about how much time it will take to complete, break it down and tell yourself, I'm just going to spend 2 minutes outlining the first part. Once you start, something amazing happens. You'll often find it easier to keep going. You've overcome the inertia, and now momentum carries you forward. The brilliance of the 2-minute rule is that it leverages the power of psychology. By focusing on starting small, you trick your brain into action. Our brains perceive starting a task as the most difficult part, but once we take that first step, the mental resistance begins to fade. And remember, small wins create momentum. Each time you complete a small task, even if it's just a 2-minute effort, your brain rewards you with dopamine. But this time, it's a dopamine hit that pushes you toward productivity rather than avoidance. Another psychological principle at play here is something called the Zeigarnik effect. This effect explains that once we start something, our brains naturally want to finish it. So, by simply starting a task for 2 minutes, you increase the likelihood that you'll want to continue and see it through to completion. This method also helps break down overwhelming tasks into manageable chunks. When you're staring at a huge project, it's easy to feel paralyzed by its complexity. But by telling yourself you only need to start with 2 minutes, you reduce the pressure and create an entry point that feels manageable. Before you know it, you've gone beyond the 2 minutes and are well into the task. To make the 2-minute rule even more effective, try pairing it with other productivity techniques. For example, use a timer to create a sense of urgency. Set a 2-minute timer for a task and watch how your focus sharpens. Once you've started, you can continue using the Pomodoro technique, working in focused 25-minute intervals followed by short breaks. Remember, procrastination doesn't have to define you. You have the power to change your habits and transform your life. By taking small steps, starting with just 2 minutes, you can build momentum, reduce stress, and accomplish more than you ever thought possible. So, what are you waiting for? Start now. Your future self will thank you. Thank you for watching. And until next time, keep pushing forward, stay focused, and conquer your goals, one small step at a time.